The cantina on Kepler Station smelled of cheap alcohol and desperation. Smoke drifted through the dim lights as traders, mercenaries, and drifters gathered around small tables. In the darkest corner sat a figure that made most people uncomfortable, a Velteran warrior with more scars than skin. Tekval had been telling his story for 3 years now. Same table, same drink, same desperate warning that nobody wanted to hear. His left arm was gone, replaced by a crude metal prosthetic that clicked when he moved. Burns covered half his face, and his good eye held the look of someone who had seen too much. "Listen to me," he said to the Corvan trader sitting nearby. "You must understand what they are planning. The Federation thinks Earth is easy prey, but they are wrong. So very wrong." Jix, the trader, laughed and took another sip of his drink. "Come on, old warrior. Everyone knows the survey reports. The humans can barely leave their own planet. They fight each other with primitive weapons. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Tekval's prosthetic hand gripped his glass tighter. "That is what makes them dangerous. You think weakness makes them safe, but you do not understand. I was there 30 years ago. I saw what they can do." "Sure you were," Jix said, not unkindly. "Tell me again about these terrifying humans with their metal sticks and fire weapons." Other patrons at nearby tables turned to listen. Tekval's stories had become evening entertainment at the cantina. The broken soldier who claimed to have survived the death world and lived to warn others. Most people found his tales amusing. After a few drinks, "It was supposed to be a simple mission," Tekval began, his voice growing quiet. 12 ships, full crews. We were told to survey the third planet in the Sol system and catalog its resources. The natives were listed as primitive, barely worth mentioning in the reports." He paused to drink, his hand shaking slightly. "We landed near one of their settlements, maybe 1,000 inhabitants. Farmers mostly. We expected them to run or hide when they saw us. That is what intelligent species do when faced with superior technology. But they didn't run," Jix said, having heard this part before. "No, they fought." Tekval's voice cracked. "Not with any strategy, we understood. Not with proper weapons or tactics. They fought with everything they had. Kitchen knives, farming tools, their own bodies." A human merchant at a nearby table looked up from his drink. His name was Hyunsu, and he had been quietly listening to the conversation. He was one of the few humans who traveled this far from Earth, trading in rare minerals and art. "Old warrior," Hyunsu said gently, "my people can be intense, but surely you exaggerate." Tekval turned his scarred face toward the human. You are from Earth." "Yes." "Then you know. You know what your people are capable of when threatened." Hyunsu studied the alien's face carefully. There was something in Tekval's good eye that made the human's smile fade. "What exactly happened on your survey mission?" "There was a female. She could not have been more than 20 of your years. She held my entire squad at bay for 2 hours using nothing but homemade explosives and pure determination. When we finally cornered her, she detonated the building rather than surrender, took 3 of my soldiers with her." The cantina had grown quieter. Other conversations were stopping as people listened. An old male, maybe 60 years old, threw himself directly at our energy weapons. He knew it would kill him, but he did it anyway to give others time to escape. A child barely 10 years old crawled through air vents to plant charges on our equipment. They turned our own technology against us. Jix was no longer laughing. "Surely the Federation military learned from your experience." Tekval made a sound that might have been laughter or crying. "I wrote 17 reports. I testified before 3 different committees. I showed them my scars and the footage from our helmet cameras. They said I was traumatized, that I was exaggerating the threat to justify our losses. And now?" Hyunsu asked quietly. "Now Admiral Vexnar has taken 300 ships to conquer Earth, the largest invasion force in Federation history. They think superior numbers and technology will be enough." Tekval's prosthetic hand began to shake. "They do not understand that humans do not know how to surrender. Your people will fight with rocks and sticks if necessary. They will turn, their own cities into weapons if they have to. A Federation officer at the bar looked over at their table. The invasion fleet departed yesterday, he said loudly. Those primitives will surrender within a week. You'll see. Tekval stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. Officer, I hope you are right. I truly do. Because if you are wrong, if humans are what I know them to be, then you have not sent an invasion force to Earth. What have we sent then? The officer asked mockingly. Tekval picked up his drink with his good hand and drained it in one gulp. You have sent them teachers. Teachers who will show them how to build starships and energy weapons. Teachers who will unite their divided world against a common enemy. He dropped credits on the table and walked toward the door. When the survivors return, if any return, remember that I tried to warn you. Remember that I told you the truth about Earth. The cantina remained silent long after he left. Admiral Vexnar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green planet looked peaceful, almost inviting. White clouds swirled over brown and green continents. It was hard to believe this world could pose any threat to the mighty Federation fleet. Sir, all ships report ready, his communications officer announced. 300 vessels in perfect formation. Vexnar nodded with satisfaction. This would be the easiest conquest in Federation history. The humans had no space fleet, no orbital defenses, no energy shields protecting their cities. Their most advanced weapons were crude chemical rockets that could barely reach their own moon. Begin the demonstration, he ordered. Target their military installations first. Show them our power, then demand surrender. The first wave of plasma. Bolts streaked down from space like falling stars. Military bases across Earth's surface erupted in brilliant explosions. The Pentagon, the Kremlin's defense ministry, military headquarters in Beijing and London, all vaporized in seconds. Surely, now the humans would see the futility of resistance. Instead, something unexpected happened. Music began broadcasting from the planet's surface. Not pleas for mercy or surrender announcements, but defiant music that grew louder and more coordinated by the minute. Songs in dozens of languages, all carrying the same message. Earth would not bow. Sir, the communications officer said nervously. We're receiving thousands of audio transmissions. It appears to be organized resistance music? Before Vexnar could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. Multiple launches detected from the surface, the tactical officer shouted. Chemical rockets, but there are hundreds of them. No, thousands. On Earth's surface, the response was nothing like what the Federation expected. In Seoul, a young man named Hai Jin grabbed his hunting rifle and ran toward the sound of explosions instead of away from them. His grandfather had fought in the old wars and taught him that sometimes running was not an option. They want to take our world? Hai Jin muttered, checking his ammunition. Let them come try. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In New York, Dr. Minho abandoned his university laboratory and ran to the crash site of a downed Federation scout ship. Instead of fleeing in terror, he began studying the alien technology with intense curiosity. In Lagos, a teacher named Yu Jin organized her students into evacuation teams while secretly noting everything she could about Federation equipment and tactics. The Federation dropships landed in major cities expecting to find cowering populations ready to surrender. Instead, they met organized resistance from people who seemed to have no concept of hopeless odds. In Moscow, a teenager named Jin Ai led her chemistry class in manufacturing explosives from materials they found in the school laboratory. If they want to occupy our school, she told her classmates, we make sure it costs them. Admiral Vexnar watched the reports coming in from his ground forces with growing confusion. Commander Zalthek, explain to me why your troops are requesting reinforcements. The humans have no military left. The voice from the surface crackled with static and something that sounded like exhaustion. Sir, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. They use everything as weapons, kitchen knives, farming tools, cleaning chemicals. They turn their own buildings into traps. Surely primitive weapons cannot threaten our soldiers. It's not the weapons, sir. It's them. They fight in groups, covering each other, sharing resources. When one falls, another takes his place immediately. They seem to communicate without technology we can detect. And, sir, they're learning. Fast. In London, a group of survivors had dragged a damaged Federation vehicle into the underground tunnels. Tae-ho, barely 16 years old, was leading a team of even younger children in taking it apart piece by piece. They didn't understand the HFY technology, but they understood how to break things and how to make other things from the pieces. "Look at this," whispered Soo-jin, a former engineering student. "The power cells use some kind of crystal matrix. If we can figure out how to make them work." Back on the flagship, Vexnar studied the tactical displays with growing concern. Red dots marked sites of Federation losses across the planet. Each dot represented equipment destroyed, soldiers wounded, or positions abandoned. The humans were supposed to be primitives, but they were adapting to Federation technology with frightening speed. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from several locations on the surface. It appears the humans are attempting to reverse engineer our technology." "That's impossible. They lack the scientific knowledge." "Nevertheless, sir, the signatures are consistent with modified Federation power systems." In Geneva, Dr. Yoonji worked frantically in a basement laboratory with a team of survivors. They had managed to extract intact power cells from a crashed Federation fighter, and she was beginning to understand how they worked. Around her, scientists, engineers, and even some remarkably gifted teenagers worked around the clock. "We're not just going to survive this," she told her exhausted team. "We're going to show them what humans can do when we're truly motivated." Above ground, Federation patrols continued their sweeps, unaware that every move they made was being watched and recorded by a species that had just learned what they were truly capable of when their home was threatened. The invasion was 3 days old, and Admiral Vexnar was beginning to understand why a certain scarred warrior had tried to warn them. 6 months had passed since the Federation invasion began, and Commander Zaltek was losing his mind. He sat in his command bunker, staring at reports that made no sense. According to every military manual he had studied, Earth should have surrendered within weeks. Instead, human resistance had grown stronger every single day. "Sir, we've lost another patrol," his lieutenant reported. "Third one this week in the London sector." Zaltek rubbed his temples. "What happened this time?" "The humans have turned the underground tunnels into a maze. Our soldiers go in and they just disappear. We find their equipment later, but it's been stripped clean and modified." In those same tunnels, Tae-ho crouched with his team of young fighters. At 15, he was considered an elder among the tunnel children, kids who had learned to move through the underground like ghosts. His team included Jinwoo, age 12, who could crawl through spaces too small for adults, and Yeonju, age 10, who had an amazing memory for patrol routes and timing. "Remember the pattern," Tae-ho whispered to his squad. "The aliens think in straight lines. They expect us to run away or attack directly. We do neither. We circle around, we wait, we take what we need, then we vanish." The children nodded seriously. In 6 months, they had learned lessons that would have taken adult soldiers years to master. They had also learned something the Federation could not understand: how to fight as a family. Above ground, the city looked destroyed, but beneath the rubble, life continued in ways the aliens could not detect. Soo-jin had become a master of the new underground economy. Once a teacher in Busan, she now coordinated supply lines for 3 different resistance cells using nothing but hand signals and messages scratched on walls. "The aliens monitor all electronic communications," she explained to a group of new recruits. "So we communicate the old way, like our grandparents did during the wars. We use pictures, we use sounds, we use things they cannot intercept because they do not understand them." The Federation had destroyed Earth's governments and military command structure, expecting chaos and surrender. Instead, something remarkable had happened. Humans had simply created new systems, smaller, more flexible, and completely invisible to their occupiers. In the ruins of Tokyo, an old man named Dong-su ran a repair shop that did not officially exist. During the day, he pretended to scavenge, for food like other civilians. At night, he fixed radios, weapons, and electronic devices for the resistance. His workshop was hidden in the basement of a collapsed building, and he had learned to work in complete darkness to avoid detection. The key, he told his apprentices, is to think like water. Water finds a way around every obstacle. It does, not fight the rock. It goes around the rock, under the rock, through cracks in the rock. Eventually the rock breaks, but the water remains. His apprentices were mostly teenagers, including Sune, a 17-year-old who had shown remarkable talent for electronics. She had learned to modify Federation equipment so well that their own devices could not detect her changes. Why do they not give up? Commander Zalthek asked his staff during their daily briefing. We have superior numbers, superior technology, superior firepower. Any rational species would surrender. His intelligence officer, a veteran of dozen conquests, shook his head in confusion. Sir, I think the problem is that humans are not rational. They make decisions based on emotions we do not understand. They will sacrifice themselves for strangers. They will fight impossible battles to protect people they have never met. Meanwhile, in a hidden laboratory beneath the ruins of Geneva, Dr. Yunji was making breakthrough after breakthrough. Her team had successfully reverse-engineered Federation power cells, weapon systems, and communication devices. But more importantly, they were improving on the original designs. Look at this, she said to her team, holding up a modified Federation plasma rifle. Their weapons are designed to be powerful, but safe for the user. Ours do not need to be safe. We can make them much more powerful, even if they are dangerous to use. Her team included Minho, a former university professor who now specialized in making explosives from everyday materials, and Hyun Woo, a teenage prodigy who could understand alien technology better than most trained engineers. The Federation builds things to last, Hyun Woo observed. They expect to use the same equipment for decades. We build things to work once, but work very well that one time. The difference in philosophy was showing results. Human weapons were crude, dangerous, and unreliable, but they were also unpredictable and devastatingly effective when they worked. Back in his bunker, Commander Zalthek received the daily casualty reports with growing dread. Federation losses were mounting, not from massive battles, but from thousands of small encounters. Humans attacked in groups of 3 or 4, struck quickly, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They are learning our tactics faster than we are learning theirs, his tactical officer reported. Every strategy we use, they find a counter-strategy within days. It is as if they share information instantly across the entire planet. What the Federation did not understand was that humans had weaponized something no other species possessed: the ability to care about strangers as much as family. Every attack, every success, every failure was shared through networks of people who had chosen to trust each other completely. In Seoul, He Jin's resistance cell had grown from 5 people to 50. They called themselves a family, and they meant it literally. They shared food, shelter, weapons, and most importantly, hope. The Federation had come to conquer a divided species. Instead, they had created something that had never existed before: a truly united human race. 1 year after the invasion began, the cantina on Kepler Station was no longer filled with laughter when Thekval spoke. The scarred Velturan warrior sat at his usual table, but now people gathered around him with serious faces and worried voices. The news feeds playing on screens throughout the station told a story that should have been impossible. Federation, forces in full retreat from Sol system, the newsreader announced in a flat, professional voice that could not hide the shock. Admiral Vexenar's flagship last seen fleeing toward the outer rim, pursued by unknown vessels of apparent human construction. Jix the traitor slumped in his chair beside Thekval, his usual cheerful attitude gone. You tried to warn us. We should have listened. Thekval watched the grainy footage of human ships chasing Federation vessels through space. The human craft were ugly. Crude assemblies of metal and salvaged Federation technology welded together with no regard for proper engineering. But they were fast, and they were relentless. Tell me what really happened during your first encounter, Jix said. Quietly, The truth this time. All of it. Thekval's good eye focused on something far away. It was 30 years ago. 12 ships, all new, all fully crewed. We were told it would be a simple survey mission. Map the system, catalog resources, assess the native population for potential integration into the Federation. He paused, his prosthetic hand flexing unconsciously. There was a small settlement in what they called Korea. Maybe 800 people, mostly farmers and crafters. We landed our shuttle in their main square, expecting the usual response. Fear, submission, perhaps some primitive attempts at communication. But that is not what happened, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see a human woman approaching their table. She was young, maybe 25, with calm eyes and scars on her hands that spoke of recent combat. Her name was Ram, and she wore the simple clothes of a civilian, though she moved with the confidence of a soldier. "You are human," Thekval said, not quite a question. "Yes, I came here specifically to find you. My grandmother told me stories about a Velteran warrior who tried to warn the Federation about us. She said his name was Thekval." The old warrior stared at her. "Your grandmother?" "Sune. She was 17 when your people first came to our village. She led the resistance that held your forces for 3 days before your rescue ships arrived." Thekval's scarred face went pale. "She survived. The building exploded. I saw it myself." Ram smiled sadly. "She escaped through tunnels the village children had dug. She lived to be 86 and spent her life preparing our people for the day when the Federation would return in force." She pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. It looked like Federation technology, but modified in ways that made the original barely recognizable. "She left this for you. A recording." The device activated, and a voice spoke in accented Galactic standard. It was the voice of an old woman, but strong and clear. "Thekval of the Velteran. If you are hearing this, then the invasion has begun, and my granddaughter has found you. I want you to know that we never forgot you. You were the first alien we met who showed us mercy. After the battle, when we had wounded among your people, you tried to stop us from helping them. You said we should let our enemies die. But when we refused and treated your soldiers anyway, you did not stop us. You watched. You learned." Thekval's hand was shaking now. He remembered. The human girl who had fought so fiercely, then knelt beside his wounded comrades and used her own supplies to bandage their injuries. The recording continued. "You asked me once why we fought so hard for a small village that meant nothing to a galactic empire. I told you it was because it was our home, but that was only part of the truth. We fought because you made us realize we were not alone in the universe. If there were beings like you among the stars, beings who could show mercy even to enemies, then perhaps the universe was worth fighting for." The device showed images now, human faces, young and old, all looking directly at the viewer, with expressions of determination and hope. "We spent 30 years preparing for your return. Not just building weapons or training soldiers, but learning who we wanted to be when we met the stars. We studied your people, your culture, your language. We learned about the Federation and its history. We discovered that most species surrender because they believe conquest is inevitable. But we also learned something else, that every species that joined the Federation did so because they had no other choice." The recording paused, then showed footage of the recent battles, but not the destruction and chaos shown on the news feeds. Instead, it showed Federation soldiers being treated in human medical facilities, alien prisoners learning human languages, mixed crews working together on the converted ships. "We decided to give your people a different choice," Sune's voice continued. "You could conquer us and add another unwilling member to your empire, or you could join us and help build something better, a galaxy where beings choose to work together instead of being forced to submit." The recording ended with Sune's aged face filling the screen. "Tell them, Thekval. Tell them that the age of conquest is over. Tell them that Earth offers friendship to all who want it and freedom to all who need it. Tell them that the universe is big enough for everyone to have a home." The device went dark and the cantina was completely silent. Ram looked at Thekval with gentle eyes. She also said to tell you that you are welcome on Earth, if you choose to come. We could use someone who understands both worlds. Tekval stared at the young human, remembering the fierce girl who had become a wise old woman, who had spent her life turning an invasion into an invitation. The Federation Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in stunned silence as the final reports came in from the Sol system. What should have been the Federation's greatest victory had become something nobody could have imagined. Councillor Velnara stood at the central podium, holding a datapad with shaking hands. The invasion force of 300 ships no longer exists as a Federation military unit, she announced. Half the vessels have been converted to human command. The remaining ships have requested permission to establish what the humans call cultural exchange programs. A Corvin representative stood up. What does that mean exactly? It means, Velnara replied slowly, that Admiral Vexnar has formally requested asylum on Earth. His final transmission stated that the humans offered his forces a choice: fight to the last ship and be remembered as invaders, or learn from their mistakes and be remembered as the first to join a new kind of alliance. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The concept was so alien to Federation thinking that many representatives struggled to understand it. On Kepler Station, Tekval sat across from the human delegation that had arrived the day before. Their ship was a converted Federation cruiser, but it flew alongside vessels from a dozen different species, all voluntary allies according to the humans. Seiram sat across from him, her calm demeanor unchanged from their first meeting. We wanted to thank you personally, she said in perfect galactic standard. If you had not tried to warn the Federation about us, they might have sent a smaller force. A smaller force might have succeeded through surprise. Beside her sat Wu Jin, a man who wore the insignia of Earth's new interstellar fleet. His uniform was simple, practical, and bore no symbols of conquest or dominance. We are not interested in building an empire, he said. We want to build a community. The Federation spent centuries trying to conquer the galaxy. We would like to try befriending it instead. Tekval studied these impossible humans. Your people really do not know how to lose, do they? Seiram smiled. We prefer to think of it as not knowing how to stop trying. She activated a small display that showed star maps of the local sector. Red dots marked Federation worlds, but they were slowly changing to blue as reports came in. In the past 6 months, 17 Federation worlds have declared independence and requested Earth's protection. Not conquest, protection. We help them establish their own governments and defense forces, then we leave. That makes no sense, Tekval said. How do you benefit? By making friends instead of subjects, Wu Jin replied. Friends share resources willingly. Friends help each other in times of need. Friends make the galaxy a safer place for everyone. The display changed to show footage from various worlds. On Kepler Prime, human engineers worked alongside local technicians to repair infrastructure damaged by Federation taxation policies. On Veltar, Tekval's own homeworld, human teachers were helping establish schools that had been closed to fund military expansion. This is impossible, Tekval whispered. No species can survive by giving away their advantages. We are not giving them away, Seiram said gently. We are sharing them. When you share knowledge, you do not lose it. You double it. When you share friendship, you do not become weaker. You become part of something stronger. The display showed more footage, human ships working in mixed crews with aliens who had once been their enemies. Federation soldiers learning human engineering techniques, human children playing with alien youngsters on worlds that had never seen peace between species. The Federation Council has sent negotiators, Wu Jin continued. They want to discuss terms for ending hostilities. And what terms will you offer? Tekval asked. The same terms we offer everyone, Seiram replied. Friendship if they want it, freedom if they need it, and the chance to build something better than what came before. She leaned forward, her expression serious but hopeful. The galaxy is big enough for everyone to have a home, Tekval. Your people were explorers before they became conquerors. We could use explorers. Thekval looked at the star maps, showing a galaxy slowly changing from red to blue, not through conquest, but through choice. Species after species was choosing to join this impossible human alliance based on nothing more than mutual respect and shared hope. You know, he said slowly, when I first encountered your people, I thought they were dangerous because they would not surrender. I was wrong. They are dangerous because they make everyone around them want to be better. Is that such a bad kind of dangerous? Ram asked. Thekval thought about his homeworld, where human teachers were helping Velteron children learn that there were alternatives to conquest. He thought about the Federation Council, scrambling to understand a species that responded to invasion with friendship. He thought about the galaxy his scars had warned about, and the galaxy his choices might help create. Perhaps not, he said finally. Perhaps it is exactly the kind of dangerous the galaxy needs. As he accepted Earth's offer and prepared to join, the first truly voluntary interstellar alliance in galactic history, Thekval realized that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology or their tactics. It was their stubborn, impossible belief that enemies were just friends who had not been properly introduced yet. The Federation had sent an invasion force to conquer Earth. Instead, Earth had conquered the idea of conquest itself, replacing it with something the galaxy had never seen before: genuine cooperation between species who chose to work together because they wanted to, not because they had to. The age of empires was ending. The age of friendship had begun.